Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Thursday, October 7th, 2021. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV, channel 7, 11 and 20. Good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9, and the folks joining us on Party Grenada and Go to FET Facebook pages. Always a pleasure to have you. Joining me virtually this morning is President of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Jude Bartholomew, and he's here to give us some of the latest updates in relation to the matters that the union is handling as we speak. Good morning, Mr. Bartholomew, and thank you very much for joining us on To The Point this morning.
Good morning to you, Blossom. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on this program for the very first time.
Yes, it is. Most the times you've joined us before, you were on the Good Morning Grenada program. So we're happy to have you on the To The Point platform. So, Mr. Bartholomew, before we get into specifics, let me ask a general question. How has the Grenada's wave of the COVID-19 situation, how has it affected the members of your association, the teaching profession?
So before I answer, I would like to say a special good morning to our teachers, to our national executive, and to the general public. And welcome to the program, and we look forward to your contribution. Thank you so much. COVID-19 is indeed a challenge for our members and to our nation. And even before I do that, I would like to go to a word of scripture from Psalm 46, our just exaltation to our people, to our nation, to our teachers, and to everyone. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. And in Romans chapter 8, 35 to 37, who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble, or hardship, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or danger, or sword? No, in all things, we are more than conquerors through him who loves us. And so we know that God is in control, even in the COVID-19 situation. And indeed, COVID-19 has indeed impacted negatively in some ways on our teachers, members of our teaching profession, not only teachers, the police and police officers, also the general public. So on the behalf of the Grenada Union of Teachers, I would like to take this opportunity to express our deepest sympathy and condolences to our dear teachers, those who have fallen to COVID-19, also and to other members of their family. We know that they are hurting deeply at this time, even while they teach and do justice to the nation's children online. I also would like to take the opportunity to express our deepest condolences and sympathy to the Police Commissioner, Elvin Nimrod, to the Police Commissioner, Edwin Martin,
right,
for basically the loss of fallen comrades in the Royal Grenada Police Force, and to the general public, those who have lost members during the COVID situation.
All right. Let's now get into some of the other matters in relation to the GUT, specifically with the start of the new school year under different circumstances that we've grown accustomed to. We've been going through virtual learning since 6th of September. And it seems like that will continue for a while. But but as mentioned by Minister of Education, even as recent as yesterday on To The Point, she mentioned that the way to reopening schools physically may be in mandatory or vaccinations of the nation's children and teaching profession. What is the GUT thinking in relation to that idea that it's not finalized, but it's something that's being considered, vaccination of teaching staff and the students who are eligible?
Basically, I would like to make it clear and put it out here in transparency's sake that I would have taken the Pfizer vaccine. I had my fear and doubts. I would have taken the first shot, not the second dose as yet. And so as I would say, and the Grenada Union of Teachers.
So you have taken the shot? The first shot?
Yes, I have taken the first shot, yes. But I also want to make it clear here, I have taken the first shot. That was my own personal decision. So that does not mean to say because I would have taken it here that I'm forcing or we want to force teachers or the general public to take the COVID-19 vaccine. What we're saying, and I did say it here on the behalf of the union have put out a statement saying no to to mandatory vaccination. That is our stand. But we do believe with education and such, and we do believe that teachers and other persons, there are a lot of persons out there, they need to be educated, they are fearful in some of the times, the situations. So the government, the Ministry of Health and others, they have a lot of work to do in terms of educating and encouraging persons, all right, the doses and everything with the vaccine, and hopefully persons will come around. So that's the situation there. We did hear what the Minister for Education said, and also the Prime Minister, indirectly or directly. Basically, teachers and students, probably that's basically the whole up in terms of opening school face-to-face. What I want the nation to know, the general public, that they must have some confidence in the teachers that with the COVID-19 situation, it is very, very difficult to have school face-to-face. Right about now, online, and that's basically the way to go until we are sure, are quite certain that the COVID-19 situation with the deadly Delta virus is brought under control. And I think teachers have been doing a marvelous job. We want the nation, we want our parents and such to be confident, to have some confidence, level of confidence in our teachers. We did it before, and the teachers did it before, right, in 2020 with the COVID-19 situation. All right, it was one of the best results ever, basically in exams. And what we are saying that the teachers are ready to do it again as a measure of safety, because we see what is happening. Teachers pay the ultimate price. Some teachers die. Their family, close family, is a stressful and grieving time for teachers. Is a grieving time and a hurtful time and stressful time for even children and for the parents. So we have to tread cautiously and make sure that we bring this thing under control before teachers go back to school and children face to face. And it's not only the vaccination and vaccine for just teachers and children. You have a situation there with, even with the vaccination, you have vaccine for children 12 years and over. What will happen in that situation for children under 12? You're looking at the size of school and such, the closeness in classroom space and everything, the population of students. You're looking at a situation where students and teachers basically have to travel with buses. All right, so until we get all these things right and the authorities and such bring this COVID situation under control, the safest place or safest way to have school is online for the time being.
And another recent statement made by the Prime Minister during his national address on Tuesday morning. I understand that there are some members of the teaching profession who took one of the statements that he made. They interpreted it as the Prime Minister blaming teachers for schools not being able to physically reopen. Have you had that concern from members of the association, and what are your thoughts on what the Prime Minister said?
Well, basically, we would have had that concern, but at the same time, the Prime Minister did do the right thing, the right decision, in terms of, yes, probably other places would have been open, but I think some wisdom prevailed from the Prime Minister in terms of holding back and not allowing teachers and students to go back to school face-to-face. So in spite of what he would have said, whether or not he would have said that teachers and students should take the vaccine, but in the end, I think that wisdom would have prevailed and allow teachers and students to stay home to teach online, because the same education we know is a challenge. Yes, it's difficult. It is not easy for the parents, for the teachers, and for the students with online, but it's the safest place to be. So I think wisdom prevailed, and in the end, he did the right thing. And what we are saying in terms of for teachers safety, for students, for parents, and everybody, I think we have to ensure that the COVID-19 situation is greatly brought under control before we think about going face-to-face.
Recently, it was also announced by the Ministry of Education that the TAMCC Act would be under review. What are your thoughts on, or some of the things that should be included in the review to ensure that everyone benefits from this process?
Well, basically, we haven't seen what the Ministry of Education or government would have said in terms of putting out whatever we know they may want to review, but we haven't seen anything. We just hear. We haven't seen any document or anything from them as yet. Even TAMCC, when you find out, they haven't really seen anything from yet. But the concerns I would like to bring on for TAMCC, our TAMCC as a statutory body is really, really struggling, just as probably other primary and secondary schools and part of education. So what we observe is that you have lecturers there who probably were in the system under the Ministry of Education and would have moved over, and still sometimes they don't get a pension and gratuity and other things. So this is a challenge. We have a challenge in TAMCC also with the resources, limited resources. What we do know is basically poor people children that really attend TAMCC. So you can't really charge them the sort of maximum fees in terms of otherwise they would not be educated. Many persons will drop out, many students. And so the transition from the secondary school to TAMCC is not an easy one. And we face with a situation with the same COVID situation where a lot of children from Form 5, they do not have the devices basically for college. Some persons are doing their work on their phone. So it's a plea, we're making out a clarion call to the Ministry of Education, to the government, to other private entities to see what you can do to assist basically TAMCC, to probably pump some more resources into TAMCC to assist some of the students who just have their phones, but they don't have a device. We also have a situation with the library. So the virtual library in terms of the dissemination of information for students and for teachers. And so we're asking for help from the Ministry of Education, from government and other entities to pump more resources into TAMCC so that they can operate better. Also, in terms of the COVID-19 protocol, a lot of the resources, the limited resources that TAMCC has, they have to use it in terms of sanitizing, cleaning, and spending a lot of money there. So again, a clarion call to the Ministry of Education and to the government of Grenada to pump some resources, probably just as how you have persons going in schools and such, the humanis and other persons to sanitize and to do those things. The government of Grenada probably could send persons there and to assist in terms of the economic factor for them.
In the review process, I know you said you haven't seen anything officially, but in the review process, do you think the GOT would be called on to share their thoughts on, some of the things that need to be included in the Act, excluded from the Act?
Well, basically, as I said, yes, the GOT should be involved, and persons from college itself, TAMCC management, and other persons. But as I said, we wait and see what they will come in with, and then we'll be able to see something.
Oh, okay. All right. In the midst of COVID-19 as well, I know the battle for the 4% salary increase, well, a part of it at least, continues with the payment of the retroactive. What's the latest with that issue?
Well, the retroactive payment should be paid by the 28th of October. And basically, we are expecting that the payments will be made. And that's where we are with that situation. We know that the government did live up to their promises in terms of paying the 4%. And Dr. Mitchell, in some cases that the government, I don't think they would want to go down in history as such. They would like to keep to their word. So we are very confident that on the 28th of October for the latest, that the retroactive payment will be paid.
Is there any reason to doubt that it will be paid, or is there anything that is nagging in the back of your mind as to how forthcoming that payment will be on time?
Well, sometimes you leave room for disappointment, but right now at this time, we have positive expectations that the monies will be paid.
All right, that's a good outlook. The issue of docked salaries for a teacher, that issue still continues as well. It's been, what, 3 years now?
Yes, almost ongoing, yes.
Right. What's the latest? Any developments there?
Well, basically, we were struggling with the docked salary situation. We made the appeals to the government of Grenada, the Ministry of Education, to settle this matter, because we know that this is a very, very important matter to us, and then it is affecting not only like teachers, but it's affecting young people, athletes and such in sports and different things like that, because the GOT did take a stance in terms of probably forcing government hand to see how we can get back the money. We always say that it is wrong. I mean, for what the government did, we took part in a legitimate industrial action, and the government was a little bit high-handed in terms of docking the salaries. And ordinary simple teachers, you have working mothers, single parents, and those things, and at the time when it happened. So in a democratic society, when you have the right to take part in legitimate union activities and to just move high-handedly and to dock our salaries, it wasn't a nice thing. So we think that the government of Grenada, the Ministry of Education, can put back trust and confidence on both sides in the way in which they handle the matter and pay the dock salaries.
Regularization of teachers. What's the latest with that? Have we seen a significant dent or a significant reduction in the number of teachers that we have had on temporary status for the past, whether it's a day or 10 years, and more teachers being appointed permanently appointed in the system?
Well, for our teachers, we'll say that we have a lot of teachers temporary or permanently temporary for a long time. And we have teachers 15 years and 14 years and how many years, 12 years, 10 years, is a struggle, is a fight. As we said, basically there have been a break in the trend of the legal thing to do. What used to happen, let's say, for example, when I became a teacher, in 2 years, once you perform well and everything like that, so automatically you are upgraded and receive permanent status. Now, basically with the Ministry of Education, the government of Grenada, for whatever reason, there is a delay and we have a backlog in terms of probably about 500 and so other teachers who are temporary for a long period of time. And yes, we involve and engage in negotiations. The process is continued, and we do hope not in the too long distant future that some teachers will be regularized. At the same time, when we talk about the regularization of teachers, we also want to put in a plea and a word there, not only for teachers, but for the nurses, right, and doctors and other public officers who have been struggling for a long period of time, temporary, and it's a good time between the COVID-19 situation here. Here the Prime Minister came out and other persons and basically praising nurses and doctors and other persons who would have sacrificed their lives and done very well in terms of for the country, the fight during COVID-19. So I want to take the opportunity also, this COVID-19 situation have really and truly taught us a lesson, the importance of appreciating basically workers and appreciating our members. That the theme for basically this year's celebration of World Teachers Day, basically appreciating, we see you, we hear you, we applaud you, we appreciate you, and we celebrate you. So let's celebrate our teachers, let's applaud them and all those things, but we look forward for the regularization of our teachers. And at the same time, we look forward in terms of our nurses and doctors and other public officers to be regularized, because that's the situation here. Now, the nurses and such have been crying out for a long time, a very long time. We have a real good established nursing fraternity in Grenada. And what you would have observed, I mean, it's really, really hurtful and painful when you hear the Minister for Health was calling basically on other persons to come and assist. Where are the nurses, a lot of them who gave patriotic service? They had to leave, they left for greener pastures and all those things because of the treatment that they were getting. Also, what you see with nurses and such, some of them for a long period of time, a temporary position. So if all these things would have been done and the foundation would have been laid, right about now during the COVID-19 situation, we would have had ample nurses and doctors and other persons who would have gone to greener pastures. They would have been in Grenada here to assist. So I think the best way to appreciate them for a great job that they would have done is to regularize the nurses and doctors and other persons together with the teachers and other public officers.
As you mentioned, something that reminded me of the Teachers College. The new regulation or the new rules would see that teachers are going to school full-time, not full-time, but part-time, while also performing their duties. Have any teacher or someone who would like to attend Teachers College, have they expressed concern with that rule that they have to teach and go to school at the same time?
Well, thank you so kindly for bringing that up, because a number of teachers, even from the Grenada Union of Teachers and teachers generally, would have expressed concern about that. And that is a sad situation. Here you have the teachers and you have TAMCC, Teachers College, one of the premier institutions in terms of training teachers for the skills and such in terms of delivering of content and skills for our young people. And here you have now the Ministry of Education more or less modifying and going into another direction. And this thing started happening since 2020 during COVID-19, where no teacher went to teachers' college. We were a bit concerned. So as we say in here, we have no problems with the young people, with the Imanis and other persons going to TAMCC. But here in a situation where the Imani and such, they were going to teachers' college, or train and such, yes, that's a different entity. But you have teachers not being able to go. And this time around with the bursary situation, teachers do receive a scholarship to go to TAMCC. And that scholarship in the sense allows, while you go to school, you go to college full time, and then you have somebody replacing you at your school. In that situation, in this new dispensation now, what you have is that any teacher who gets you to go to teachers' college, it means that you're on your own. You have to teach for the day, and then most instances go to college after school. Now you're looking at time when you come out there, you're tired and everything like that. So that 2 year, that 3 year, although the 2 years now is extended to 3 years, it will be very, very difficult and challenging for a teacher to do all this work, then go to college basically in the evening time, probably come back at night time. When you're talking about situations where there are some teachers who live in St. Patrick's, there are other teachers who live probably in St. Mark's and St. John's and other places. What time are these persons getting back home and such to prepare work for the next day to go back in the classroom? So we are calling on the Ministry of Education and the government of Grenada to rethink that situation. Yes, we know that you want to open it up basically for other teachers and everything like that. So, but to go back and to think about that situation, it will negatively probably affect the school who will replace the teacher in terms of that. The load will come on other teachers, and then teachers going to school in the evening, coming back basically tired and everything, and have to come back and do work the next day.
Let's go back to the possible reopening of schools, or physically schools, face-to-face classes. While the minister has indicated that mandatory vaccination or vaccination of the students and teaching population may be the way to go, she also mentioned that it will be done on a phased basis. So, but I want to get your thoughts on how you think reopening of schools can be done. If you were contacted by whether it's the minister, the prime minister, the PS and the Ministry of Education about how the reopening of schools can be accommodated, what would your suggestion or suggestions be?
Well, basically, a phased basis is a good idea. All right, it's a good idea because even in 2020, when we went back and such, all the children did not come back face-to-face together. So you had a phase or a rotation system, or basically probably based on the size of the school. There are some small schools where probably about 100 or even under 100 students where everybody might be able to come back at once. But where you have a large population, you have some schools with almost sometimes 1,000, 700, 500 and 600 students. It would be very, very difficult to bring back everybody together. So I think a rotation period in terms of this class or this grade coming today and then the next grade coming tomorrow, that would be a good idea. But we cannot just take everybody and put them back in school at the same time. That would be a challenge for space and everything. So I would go with the idea, and not even right now, as we say, when the conditions is right, but to rotate the children and to bring them back at a phased basis. So it's a good idea.
The issue of devices, internet connectivity for not just our students, but I understand there are teachers who are struggling with that as well. Has the GET been able to assist some of our teachers who may be having trouble facilitating online classes, online learning?
Well, I think it's a challenge there because remember, as we say since last year, the younger teachers, basically you have the younger people, the younger generation, they're in line with the technology and in everything. So some of these persons could pick up this thing quickly. So you have teachers, senior teachers, older teachers is a challenge, but they are trying. One of the things that we face with is the MSTAR. All right, so that was the platform that the Ministry of Education basically developed. And we find going back to school now, after all the training and teachers, they would have spent some time. So you have to give the ministry some credit in one sense. They did spend some time in terms of providing teachers and students with the gadgets and devices. And they did spend some time in terms of training teachers. Lo and behold, at the returning of school here, you heard that MSTAR platform had some problems and is no more. So I think teachers were a bit surprised, and there was the first day in the opening of school a little bit chaotic. These are some of the challenges that we have. So I think they have a new platform now, Remind, and persons are trying to get acquainted with it. So I think these are some of the major challenges that we have in different platforms. So I think what the ministry probably should do as a suggestion is to allow teachers to use basically different platforms to reach the children, the various platforms. Some persons with the Google Classroom, right, and Reminder, whatever, Moodle and everything, they should do that to be able to reach the children or they are most comfortable with.
All right, let's take a break, Mr. Bartholomew, and then we're going to come back and continue the discussion. Speaking with President of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Jude Bartholomew. We'll be right back.
Let's get tough on breed your larceny. It will destroy our economy. Larceny threatens our food security. Can hurt us locally, hurt us globally. To all the buyers, ask for license from all produce sellers. To all the people, 300 for police for them thieving fellas. To all the farmers, please don't steal produce from your brother. Then you sell it to traffickers, hotels and street vendors. Nah, man. Let's do all we can to stop radio larceny. New vigilance, new laws, and a tough judiciary. Stop Grenada's organized business crime. It's time.
To report radio larceny, call 300.
Government, private sector, civil society, academia, farmers, the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry, in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization, invites you to World Food Day 2021, the virtual edition, under the theme, Our Actions Are Our Future, Better Production, Better Nutrition, a Better Environment, and a Better Life. Join us October 15 from 9:30 a.m. via Zoom, Facebook, GIS, and Real FM as we recognize and celebrate the many successes of the agriculture sector.
Coughs and sneezes spread diseases, so cover coughs and sneezes, please. Not with a rag or bandana. They trap germs. When you use the rag again, you put germs on your hands and everything else you touch. When you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth and nose with tissue. Throw the tissue in a bin and wash your hands afterwards. If you don't have a tissue, cough into your sleeve or elbow. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers are also effective in cleaning hands.
EC Polymer Notes, our new money.
Here's how you can detect genuine EC Polymer Notes. Feel. Polymer notes feel smoother than the material from which paper notes are made. Also, the front of each note has raised bumps at the top left-hand corner. These bumps form shapes that are familiar to you. Look for the clear window at the front and back of each note. This window allows you to see through the notes. If you hold the notes up to the light, you'll see the value of the note in an area of plain colored print. Tilt. A holographic foil is on the $100, $50, and $20. The images move and their colors change when you tilt the notes. Remember, detecting genuine EC Polymer notes is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Feel, look, and tilt.
EC Polymer Notes. Cleaner, safer, stronger.
Feel good tax.
Remember, if you have flu symptoms, do the right thing and stay at home to avoid giving it to others. Remember, you can be infectious up to a week after developing symptoms, so rest up and take it easy.
Feel good facts.
Welcome Welcome back to The Point, speaking with President of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Mr. Jude Bartholomew. I'll open the phone lines in a short while, but Mr. Bartholomew, let me ask this question. The issue of mental health, it has come to the fore more so because of COVID-19 and some of the restrictions that we have had to undergo in an effort to curb the spread of COVID-19. But specifically, how are teachers coping mentally with the pressures and the stresses of COVID-19, having to adjust in the way that they teach while also dealing with their own personal reactions to how we are trying to curb the spread of COVID-19? How have teachers been responding?
Well, it has been a difficult moment for teachers. And not only for teachers, for the general public, all workers, all persons in Grenada, basically because of the COVID-19 situation. But we know that there are a lot of teachers out there that are really, really hurting and really, really stressed. We know that there are students basically that are hurting and that are stressed. And there are parents that are hurting and they are stressed. Dealing with the COVID-19 situation, your whole routine basically has changed. All right, you have to adapt to new situations and circumstances. So you have a situation basically where children are accustomed to going out to play and different things like that. They can't go out because of the COVID-19 situation. They are restricted. You have a situation where they have to probably be dealing with the devices for the day. Your teachers are stressed because you're accustomed. The best way to teach is face-to-face. Teachers love it when they go back to the classroom face-to-face. And I could tell you that seeing the children smiling, a smile online is something different to basically face-to-face with the children, meeting them, moving away from home every day, meeting your colleagues and friends and such is a stress reliever. So just dealing with the devices, dealing with the work online, trying to move from one situation where you have a situation where you are customer acquainted to one platform, Emster, then you have to adapt now to a new situation, new platform at the last moment and all those things. You want to ensure that you teach the children and the pressure is there from parents, from the society, from the Ministry of Education and everybody else to perform well. And so is another stress at the same time. Added to that, you have a situation where teachers, colleagues, comrades would have lost their lives to COVID-19 directly. Sometimes you may say even in the line of duty, or if it's not a teacher directly, a teacher's relative or mothers, fathers, uncle, best friend, and all those things. And the added to that, now you can't get a real amount of time to grieve and such. Look at the funeral situation, basically sometimes 3 days, 4 days, and it's happening so rapidly. And Grenada is a small place where we know each other. So it is very, very sad. At the same time, you have the teachers and others who basically cannot go to church because you're on Zoom for the whole week. And then you have a situation where to worship and to meet in community and to fellowship and all those things, you have to remain at home. So it is a very, very difficult situation. And just that threat of the COVID, especially with the Delta variant, over one's head, you say, but at any day, your life could be at risk. And the many things that you have to do, even as a teacher or other persons, parent or children or the general public, to try to protect your life. At the same time, as a teacher, you have your own family, or you have to protect your family. You have to deal with the nation's children. You have to deal with everything. You have to deal with the Ministry of Education. So I know that principals and teachers and other workers, it is not an easy situation for them at this time. So what we're saying here, it is a critical time where the Ministry of Education, the government and other private entities in mental health and all those things have to pay attention to that, because you want your teachers to perform at optimum. They want the children to be at optimum level. And so the guidance and counselors in the Ministry of Education, and as you said, I'm going to bring that out here. I was a little bit surprised when some of the guidance and counseling officers who play a critical role in counseling teachers and counseling students, they did say that they did not have a device from the Ministry of Education. Yes, probably they might be using their own laptop or their own phones and such, but now more than ever, they play a very critical role, especially dealing with the emotional and psychological situation, the stressful situation in counseling teachers and counseling students and everybody else. So I would want to make a plea to the Ministry of Education, the district guidance and counselors, to provide them with the appropriate device, a laptop or something, so they can counsel basically students in a group or large numbers, and basically they can hold sessions with teachers online and everybody, so that in this COVID situation, persons basically do what they have to do with a minimum level of stress.
Can the GUT offer other support for teachers who may be going through this time? What if the teachers contacted you and say, I need a break?
The teachers do it all the time. We have sessions, basically St. Patrick's branch, the various branches, and St. Patrick's branch is playing a very pivotal and important role. They have this session basically on Monday morning at 8 a.m. and doing a session of worship and such, and trying to help teachers. They had Pastor King, they had Pastor King's Douglas, and they have other persons. So it's a way of helping our teachers during this difficult moment. And then we have the Grenada Union of Teachers basically coming together and trying to reach out to counselors and other persons to help our teachers. So trying to put like a crisis center or something like that, so that teachers can call privately and confidentially, all right, to deal with the situation. Because we know that teachers need help. Sometimes teachers may not, when you're dealing with those things, it's confidence. You have to have confidence in people. You have to have trust. So sometimes you watch a teacher, you look somebody else, and they might laugh and they might smile, but deep within, persons are hurting. And so you don't want to just go telling any and anybody your business, and before you do that, it is out there on the street. So sometimes, yes, you need confidence, you need professionals, and you need, but what we are saying is that both the Grenada Union of Teachers and both the Ministry of Education and other persons, you have to be watchful, and you have to look out for teachers, you have to look out for basically even parents, and you have to look out for the nation's children, because it's a very stressful situation, and we have to be careful how we tread in during this COVID-19.
There have been instances in other sectors, of course, where people's jobs are being threatened if they do not get vaccinated. Has anything like that come up for any member of the GUT? Or is that a concern that some teachers have expressed, that they fear if they don't get vaccinated, they may lose their job?
Well, in one way, I'm glad you bring it up, and in another way, I'm sorry that you bring it up in a sense, because we don't want the government to hear that and think, well, I know they're listening. We just want to make sure about job security for our teachers. As we said no to mandatory vaccination. Now, I just want the government, the Prime Minister, the Ministry of Education, and even the private sector to think for a while and to reflect for a while. These are the workers that you know for a long period of time. Yes, it might be your business or your entity, but without you, if you stand alone, if during COVID-19 you get rid of everybody, would you be able to have a successful business because you did not build it up by yourself? So these workers would have been with you, whether for a long period of time. Can you imagine in GBN and such, and they start firing persons because you didn't take the vaccine? Or in the hotel sector, you just get rid of persons. And what would happen is that you'll be creating more stress and a hurtful situation for persons who are hurting already. So I think, as I said, look at the rate of vaccination. Gradually, it started minimum. But one can see that it is going up, whether incrementally. So that's what I said the last time, that we have to be wise. And I believe the government, the Prime Minister, and other leadership persons in leadership position, even the whole country, we have to have wisdom like Solomon, be wise, and to know how to tread and how to deal with this situation. Because you have a lot of single parents, you have a lot of single mothers, you have persons who can, when you look at the situation, you say for barbers now, they have to be probably vaccinated. I think about persons in the restaurants and such who are young persons, women, probably single parents. What happens in that situation if they are not vaccinated? They might have to go home and be forced to go home. What you might have more pressure even on government to help these people. And persons are stressed already, and you could just have a real stressful nation and a hurtful nation. So I just want the government of Grenada, I want the Prime Minister to have some wisdom in that and such, and to tread cautiously. I want employers and such to tread real cautiously. And yes, your business, you want it to profit and everything like that, you want it to grow. But think about the situation where persons might be hurting, and think about persons persons who have helped your business to be successful and profitable for a long period of time. And before the vaccine and everything and that, so you had these persons who took the risk. You had the nurses and the doctors before COVID-19, they took the risk and they were going out in danger. You had the teachers per se who were going out in danger. You had situations the teachers did not say no. When we had that situation before the vaccine, when we had to go back to school face to face, the classroom situation was very tight and very small. They had to travel on the bus and such, but basically they cooperated and they accommodated the children. They did not we did not take industrial action and say, well, no, you cannot come to school. So you have to, yes, you probably want the nation to be vaccinated, and it seems that there is a situation, I don't know where it is coming from. Sometimes it could be pressure even from international, not only local, in terms of with government and everybody, to put pressure on your society and things to be vaccinated. But leaders in our country and employers have to be wise and say, tread cautiously. That's why I say have wisdom like Solomon, and not to go bitter in terms of with your people. Educate your people and such. Tell them about the vaccine. Reach out to them. And gradually, I think that more persons might take the vaccine. But we want to put on record here that we don't want the Ministry of Education and the government of Grenada to force any teacher to bring in mandatory vaccination for our members. Educate our members, educate our people, and gradually things will happen. And we want to say the same thing for the public sector and the private sector. Don't just push your workers out. Don't just make your workers unhappy. All right? Let God prevail in all those things and have a heart for persons. When you throw them out because they didn't vaccinate or what it is, maybe you're pushing them out on the breadline and they don't have a bread and butter to take care of their family. More stress and problems in the land.
Let's now open the floors for our viewers and listeners who may have comments, questions, queries, concerns. The landline number, 435-2041. The WhatsApp number, it's also 435-2041. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. And you can continue to post your comments and questions on Facebook and YouTube. Let's go to our first caller. Good morning, caller.
A pleasant good morning to you. Mr. President, this is the second time I've had the privilege to hear you talking. And I want to point out 3 or 4 things. Number one, GUT has made a number of mistakes. And the mistakes that they have made, government have realized, okay, you're weak, and they pouncing in on that. Number one, I think that if GUT had to make any progress at all, you have a number of retired teachers. You go to every parish and you select, okay, we could take this, to advise you as you go along. That isn't done. I can see it, and I have proof of this, where present members of GUT, they despise, also and so is retired, and you looking old and that sort of business, and you know they despise you. Number two, GUT have made that mistake whereby to have teachers come into the profession on a temporary basis. When I went into the teaching profession, I started in the church school. I don't know if the church and government is different, but I was appointed permanently. There was nothing like you have to, all these years, your teachers working for how many years and they don't know whether they're in or they're out. Utter nonsense. The other point about it, no, I'm appalled to hear that teachers go into teachers' college. You have to go in the classroom, or you sick or what? The amount of reading to be done, the amount of research to be done. Could you agree to have people going in the classroom and then late in the day to go attend classes and teacher college? All you sick. The thing about it is that teachers must be in college full time. I ain't telling you them. Say I've been through it.
Okay.
Just a minute. You have individual studies, you have all these other things, so many psychologists study. And I'm not understanding it. And as a result of that, you see that kind of weakness is being pounced upon, and that's why in this situation that you're in today. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bartholomew.
Can you repeat?
Yes, go ahead. You can respond to his comments.
Yes, I think the caller did make some good points there, that when he came in, automatically he was a prominent teacher and such. And we did say that sometimes the union will have to take some blame for that, but also the Ministry of Education, government. I mean, it is really sad with a situation where you have teachers or any worker, public officer, for all this amount of years, basically temporary. You cannot go to the bank, you cannot get a loan and such. You have no job security. And that's why we're calling on the Ministry of Education and the government of Grenada to do the right thing and to regularize all teachers who are in the system. Regularize all teachers who are in the system and give them the due compensation. Give them the due compensation. And let's do that basically quickly so that we don't have a backlog, because this thing are taking so much time, taking almost a long period of time, months and months, even years, to regularize just probably about 50, 60 or 75 teachers. By the time you do that and more persons come in the system, and you're still having this recurring decimal. So as I said, that situation is not only for teachers, but that situation is for nurses and some other public officers. And I think government should do the honorable thing and to regularize and give some justice to that issue.
A WhatsApp question. In the USA, some parents are removing their children from school because they do not believe vaccinating their children is the answer. Question. What are your views on the number of parents who are now homeschooling their children? And do you think homeschooling will be the new normal?
Well, it's a very interesting question, but I would say it's a matter of choice for persons. Probably that is a culture in the United States. We know in Grenada here, there might be probably one or two persons who homeschool their children. I don't have the data or the evidence for that. But I think probably in Grenada here, the proper thing to do is to send your children in the public school or whether private school or the case may be. All right, you really have to know what you are doing to basically homeschool your children. But it is a matter of choice.
Another question on WhatsApp. How should we treat teachers and students who have recovered from COVID?
Well, basically, when you follow the news and such, it is said that the record is there, the medical evidence is there, that yes, you might get a relief from COVID now, but it leaves you sometimes with some damages, health problems and such. And so we have to be careful. You have persons now with underlying conditions and all those situations. So we have to tread cautiously with them and cautiously with not only teachers, but other persons who have the virus or who basically fall victim to the virus. So that situation, government would have to watch here, the union would have to watch, and everybody would have to watch how we go forward and treat these people.
Back to the landline. Good morning, caller.
Oh, yes, I'm coming back again. No, there's one other point I forgot to make, and you mentioned it. I do not care how much technology you have, etc. I am condemning education to technology. If a child doesn't understand a particular concept, could the computer give an answer to that? This is my argument. Teaching is a one-to-one process. And the teacher in the classroom, you teach a concept, and okay, you look on the faces of your students, and you can tell that child doesn't understand what I've just said. This other one, etc. And as a result of that, there's where you have to take your time and go through that concept step by step by step.
Thank you very much, caller. Mr. Bartholomew?
But I think that he's making a good point there. And as I would want to say and place on the record again, and for the general public, for parents and for the students, for the Ministry of Education and government, everybody, the teachers really and truly love it best when you're in the face-to-face with the school, with the children. You can smile with them, you can talk with them, you can hear their problems and everything like that. So it is not the best thing to do it online. So we know the problems and all those things that it causes. So teachers really and truly looking forward, I love it best when we can go to school face to face. But it's the situation and the circumstances that warrants at this time that we teach the children at home. I mean, think about the situation. If we were to say, well, we're going back to school now, or the Ministry of Education or the government of Grenada would say, well, just go back to school and bring back the children to school. You have a large population of young people, almost 30,000. Then you have 1,800 to 2,000 teachers. Can you imagine in the midst of COVID-19, the Delta situation, where you have people dying and all those things and the transmission of diseases, where teachers, students, everybody meeting up on bus and such, even if you have your private transport and you drive on the road, but you must go in the building. All the children together. The classroom space is very, very limited. And sometimes what you have in Grenada in many schools is basically a large population with a small classroom, limited classroom space. So you can't even really follow the COVID-19 protocols. And this is the situation and the challenge that we face. So for the time being, yes, we walking online is not the best thing, but it's because of the situation and the circumstances we are faced with. That's why we have to do it now. And when the time is right, when the COVID-19 is brought under control, adequately under control, and it is safe for the children to go back to school, for the teachers and everybody. Because I will just say, whereas parents and such and everybody would like the children to go back to school face to face, parents are very ticklish about their children, you know. Before your children catch a little fever or you hear something wrong with your child in school, you pick up on your own, wherever you are to work and such, and you're concerned about your children. So it would not be easy to just go back to school face to face without proper planning and everything in place. And then you have now children contracting COVID, teachers contracting COVID and everything like that in that situation. And you have death, you have destruction, you have all those things in the environment. So we have to be very, very careful. On the basis of that, as difficult as it may be, we let us stay online and the best that we can do to try to deliver with the nation's children. We know it is not easy until we reach in that situation where we level and we could go back to school face to face. And I would just want to put on record here, whatever the children miss now, the teachers have a way of putting it back. Teachers are a way of staying back in school, doing everything. We are aware that basically online is not the best thing. So we know that even if we're teaching and such, not all the children might be learning. Not a lot of learning might be taking place. In fact, you cannot even overwork the children online because you are conscious that they are stressed and they're facing many problems. All right, so you cannot just overburden the children. But I know the commitment and the dedication of all teachers and principals. And we can guarantee, just as in COVID-19 situation in 2020, when school reopens at whatever time, all right, face to face, teachers will rise to the occasions and principals, and schools will do what they have to do, how they know best and what they can do best. The teachers do it best. Nobody can do it more than the teachers. And teachers make sacrifice 24/7 in terms of assisting and helping the children. And one will be assured that the teachers and school will do everything in their power to prepare the children for exams and whatever comes.
A WhatsApp question: do you think taking the teacher certificate courses online will help in any way?
Well, probably some things online, but not everything that you should do or can do online. And that doesn't take away, yes, you can do something online, but there are certain things that is basically practical that you should be, as the person said, the caller said before, face-to-face is the best. There are certain things in some of the training that you do and some of the skills that you learn and those things like that, so that you have to have it face-to-face.
It's time for us to end, Mr. Bartholomew. In your closing remarks, though, the pension case, I believe the summary case goes before court sometime this month, yes?
Yes, so in the midst of COVID, we do not want our public officers and teachers and everybody else. Yes, we're concentrating on COVID so much that many times we forget other things that are taking place. All right, in Grenada. And one of the most important things to come for us, that judgment in the pension situation. And the summary of the case should be taking place on the 28th of October. And so we know in the midst of COVID-19, that court matter, as such, we heard it already, it has been heard in August, and it's just summarizing in October. And then the judge will make his judgment. So we want persons, we want teachers, we want everybody to keep abreast. We want the media to keep abreast with that situation and such. And because it's online and court is on Zoom, we are confident that that matter will take place. And we look forward for judgment in our favor. So we want our teachers and our public officers to pray. And we ask God to do it for us, to really do it for us. There's some real injustices that is taking place with teachers and other persons retiring and going home in poverty. As we say and we put on record, the NIS old age benefit is not a pension. And if it were, then the ministers of government should not have been passing a pension situation in 2 terms for them. Then if the adequate pension for persons is the NIS pension, then government ministers should have been getting it too. The mere fact that it is not there, that's why they passed their own laws to get a pension in 2 terms. And I think justice must prevail, where every teacher, every public officer should not be going home empty-handed and in poverty, but with their gratuity and pension.
30 seconds, Mr. Bartholomew, final thoughts.
So I really want to thank you this morning for giving us the opportunity to express, sentiments with the COVID-19 situation and other burning issues for teachers and other public officers. I want to say to our teachers to be strong and to be courageous. We know it is not easy for you and it is not easy for any public officer at this challenging time. It is not easy for Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. It is not even easy for government. But I say that we ask God to give us wisdom as Solomon so that we can tread cautiously and so that we can protect ourselves, our lives, our loved ones, and our family. And that teachers will dig deep and do what we have to do best to teach the nation children. But I ask the nation for a compassionate heart, not only for teachers, but for all workers and those who are struggling, the struggling man on the street who sometimes we don't pay attention to. All right, so we have to help each other, rally with each other, support each other in this difficult moment and do what we have to do. And I'm very confident that one day we're going to overcome the challenges of COVID-19 and to be in the school face to face again and to do all the things that we love to do best. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew. Continue to stay safe, and all my best to the nation's teachers as we go through this unusual time of the first term of the school year. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
President of the Grenada Union of Teachers, Jude Bartholomew, we thank him so very much for being our guest this morning and sharing some of the concerns of members of the association and the teaching profession. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point this morning. Always appreciate your listenership, your viewership. Thank you for your time. It's time for me to head on out. Enjoy the rest of your thankful Thursday. Continue to observe the protocols and have yourselves an enjoyable day. I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. GT is up next with Mid Morning Buzz. Bye-bye.